getting connected here. Okay. Hey guys. All right, sorry, I'm trying to get connected here. You know how YouTube's been the last couple weeks. It seems like ever since people started staying home and everybody's online, it's been hard to connect when we go live. Hey guys, Lee, Ricochet, what's up, Snow Dog? Hey everybody. All right, let's get this going. So let me go ahead and we're going to bring Saff in from Tiger King. And let me let you guys know right before we start, we will go to the live chat and let anyone ask anything. Towards the end of the interview, so let's just get this pumping here. Saff, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate you having me. It's a pleasure.
It's one of the biggest things, the Tiger King documentary, and it must be crazy starting off with this kind of just exploding like it has. What's it like for you with all the attention? You've done so many interviews. How's it changed things? How's it been?
No, it hasn't changed life in general, aside from the fact that I'm not anonymous anymore. So going to the store is different, but I don't do much of that anymore. I think along with the rest of the world. So other than that, I mean, I'm still the same person with the same, ambitions. I'm in the spotlight a little bit more now.
Yeah. I mean, people love Joe Exotic. There's some people that don't like him as much, and they've said all these crazy things. So people want me to ask you about Joe. I'm going to start at the top of notes, and to let the audience know, I pulled a lot of these from audience members, and I'll get any super chat or anything like that later just to let everybody know, so I won't miss any. Okay, here's what I wrote down. First off, people want to know if you ever thought you'd work with tigers when you were growing up, and I know you said it on the documentary, but if you could let them know how you kind of got started with Joe, and then we'll go into more.
Yeah, I didn't think that I would, but I always hoped. When I was a kid, as soon as I could say tiger, I've asked for one.
Yeah.
I born and raised in Hawaii. I obviously never got a tiger, so as soon as I could, which was actually when I was transitioning out of the Army in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, is when I decided to actually pursue that actively. And yeah, I came across Joe because I Googled how do you get your hands on a tiger, and he was about an hour from me at the time. So as soon as I stepped foot on that park, I never left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it seems like the coolest place. Right before we went live, we were talking about how everybody loves the original people there, and everybody seems to hate Jeff Lowe and all those guys. But how is everybody else doing? Do you still talk to them, the other people from the original group? Do you still communicate at all?
Right. No, I don't. When I left in 2018, even at that point, I hadn't kept in contact with a lot of them. And then when I left, I definitely didn't pursue contact with any of them. So, no, I do not.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So, look, we're going to just go ahead and head into some of the bigger issues to break the ice and get going. And then maybe we can bring up the other stuff after that. Because everyone wants to know about Carole Baskin and how you feel, and I've got a bunch of questions to ask. So let's start with So Joe said it a million times, and I think it was while you were there, that Carole fed her husband to a tiger. I don't know how to go into it, but how did that, when you were there, your experience? They want to know about kind of what you saw from Joe and with that whole thing, I guess, like how it started or when you were there.
Right. Joe was obsessed with himself from the day I met him. And of course, Carole had this huge feud with him since before I got there as well. So it didn't start after me. So a big part of Joe's day was just trying his hardest to get to her, anything that he could find on her, anything that he could use against her, he was looking for it. And he found it, once he found out about her husband or her ex-husband and the entire situation there, he just fist of fury, full throttle into investigating that and uncovering, whatever he could. So I guarantee you he's right now celebrating, if not just for that, because they have opened the case again. So, yeah.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, that's kind of exciting, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, though? Your personal feeling? I know it's weird because I think a million different things about the whole Carole Baskins thing, but I'll just say it. Do you think she did it, or do you think that it's a lot of hype? What's your opinion?
No, her personality calls for capability for sure. She's definitely fully capable of it. But I have no idea whether
Yeah.
she did it. I
Oh,
am
for
grateful,
sure.
and I know his family is grateful that they have reopened it. More eyes, the better. I think it's a good thing, honestly.
Oh yeah, because it's crazy how he disappeared. I'm obsessed with those kind of old stories like forensic files and stuff like that. So
Sure.
yeah, no, maybe that's why I was so captured by the documentary. Really quickly, they go into that whole thing, and it's a mystery, and people wonder because he's got millions of dollars. How do you just disappear? Well, I guess we'll see what happens now that it's open.
Right, you're right. It,
So,
it speaks loudly that he didn't take any of his millions with him, so
oh
that speaks
man,
loud
yeah,
enough for me.
me too, me too. He would have at least taken some of the cash. Okay, so now if you okay, so let's go into that. If it's hard to read this question, if Joe wouldn't have gotten so angry, obsessed, or however you describe it, over Carole, do you think he would have stayed out of trouble or not wound up in jail, or what do you think there?
Oh, absolutely. Joe's biggest problem, and I've said this to his face, he puts too much out there. His life was a show for everyone to watch from the beginning. Whether it was 5 people or 5 million people, it was always a show. So he definitely puts mind a lot. This is just accountability now. I guess. I mean, he's always been that way.
Okay, I got most of that. Skype's acting a little funky here, so I'll give it a second to kind of. It's coming back in, thank goodness. Yeah, I heard most of what you said. I'm. It seems that way from the documentary. He got so obsessed, it
Right.
kind of took him over, and it was easy. That leads me into another question. I'll just go ahead and get now. Do you think the documentary accurately represented that stage of the Joe's life with the whole Carole thing and all that, or did they blow it out of proportion, or what do you think there?
No, nothing was blown out of proportion. Unfortunately, that is the eccentricness of everyone's life. I know a lot of those people personally, and that's how they are. Whether people like it or not, man, every single one of them are happy living exactly the way that they're living. So,
Yeah, and I thought so. It's good to hear that out of you. It kind of it makes sense because Carole though will say the opposite, and I think that's why that question was brought up. So, what do you think about her saying that the documentary represented her inaccurately? I didn't agree because it just basically showed her talking. But do you think she has a point to say that she was represented inaccurately, or what are your thoughts?
yeah, I don't know what the conversations obviously to film and Carol was. But it's pretty obvious that the questions they asked were answered by her. Again, it's accountability. If you didn't like the way you came off, maybe you should have came up with some different answers. Carol, like I said, Carol is the type of person who will smile in your face while holding a knife to your back. Um,
Oh yeah.
she has her own ways of doing things, and I think that she did expect a different response. So I don't think it was the way she was portrayed. I think it was the way that people responded to the way she was portrayed.
Definitely, definitely. See, this is why I loved you on that show. You think like I do, or something. Or you're just logical about everything. Like I agree with you so much on that one. Yeah. I feel bad for Carole, but I am. This sounds weird. I'm kind of scared when I see her talk. Like there's this weird thing there that kind of freaks me out. I don't know.
She
Yeah.
has a definite vibe about her,
Yeah.
and that no matter what your interaction is with her. So she, I mean, you love her, or you don't. She does have a huge support system as well. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so so
I
that's
feel
that speaks
guilty. I
well.
feel guilty being scared of her.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I want to make sure I say that too. I don't, want to put any hate towards Carole because I think she's trying to help cats. So let me wind around there a little bit. A lot of questions came in, and I'll go to them later about how you feel about the petting industry. We'll get there in a minute, but what do you think about Carole and the way, compared to Joe, that she takes care of tigers? What's your opinion?
From what I can see, and I've been on her park a couple of times. So from what I can see, they don't one-on-one interact like we do. That's not to say one is right or the other is wrong. I just know that my relationship with my animals are directly an effect of what I do with them, how I interact with them. The amount of time I spend and the investment that I put into them. It is a bond. It is a relationship. So as far as which one is being taken care of better, that is honestly just a matter of making sure they're fed and watered. You know,
Yeah.
so in a sense, it's like a plant, but I think that it's more important to have a bond, to actually have a relationship with these animals. Therefore, it's a give and take. If
Oh,
a
I'm
tiger,
with you.
yeah, if a tiger, and I know this firsthand, if a tiger wants to hurt you, you're hurt. There's
Mm.
no arguing with a tiger. So that relationship is very important. So that's how I honestly feel about it. I'm not saying that she doesn't take care of her animals. I just know that the relationships that I have formed on that park with those animals, I mean, that stands to me stronger and speaks louder than anything else. So
Definitely, and it came through. It came through in the documentary. All you guys with Joe, and the way Joe was just attached to the animals and loved them like they were his kids and friends. So I have to ask, like, this is just me asking, but do you miss the animals, like certain tigers and all that? Like, do you think about them a lot, or like what's it like?
oh man, yes, every single day. Absolutely. It was such a big part of my life for so long. And not only that, but the investment of, blood, sweat, tears, my left hand,
Mm,
there was a lot of things that right now affects my life directly, in correlation to that experience. So yes, I miss them every day. Fortunately, I do have connections still in the business, and I am able to do it on a personal level, more so as a customer now instead of a professional.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you that too. So yeah, you still have a connection, even though you're not even close to the park now. But yeah, that. Well, but what? How are you doing now? Like, people are going to want to know. Like, so how are things? How's your life now after it?
Yeah, no, I've been well since I left. There I had a rough patch. Obviously, when you start all over, when you leave things that you love behind, it was hard. But it was all a matter of just pushing forward and moving on. I love being able to be productive. So obviously, the first thing I did was get a job that paid the bills. And I wanted to be out here, where I could put my feet in the sand. Honestly, I was born and raised in Hawaii, and I love
Yeah.
the ocean. So that's really all I'm doing. I'm just making all the moves that I need to make right now. Even before the documentary came out, just to be happy, man. Just to smile every day.
Definitely, and it comes through since we've talked a few times. It definitely does. I think people love that, to know that somebody's doing really good, because Joe is locked up right now. It's
Right.
perfect segue. I wanted to know, like, of course, do you feel that Joe? Oh man, I'll get into that though. But do you feel like he is where he should be? I just personally don't, but I don't know him, and you've got a lot of experience there. How do you feel
Yeah.
about Joe being locked up?
Um, the only opinion I really have on that is I don't want to see that man die in prison. I don't.
Yeah.
I worked with him for a very long time, intimately, one on one on a daily basis, and I don't want to see him die in prison. However, I myself have been on that side of the law for different things, and it's accountability. So I'm not here to say whether or not he deserves to be in jail, but I am here to say that I would hope that he doesn't spend the rest of his life there. Honestly.
Yeah. So just to go on that line a little bit, do you think, based off of how you've heard Joe talk about Carole, that because everybody thinks that it could have been Jeff pushing Joe to do
Right.
this, and then the other side says, no, Joe would have ran right in there and did that in a heartbeat. But I see Joe, and I don't know him, but I see him as so kind of like all over the place that I don't think. Do you think it would have happened if Jeff wouldn't have weighed in, or it wouldn't have influenced him?
Yeah. it's all down to just the reality of it all. None of this happened until Jeff showed up.
Mm.
That's the reality of it. Joe has been doing this exact same thing, having this exact same feud with Carole since, the time he opened the zoo, since the time he became one of her rivals. So if you pull anything from that, it's a common denominator, What
Mm-hmm.
changed to cause this outcome? Now, no, Joe is the type of person that everyone in this industry is opportunistic, you know. So if they see a way to benefit, and this is why I walked away, the forefront of everyone's concerns and everyone's drive was not the animals anymore, you know.
Yeah, that was definitely
So
shown through. Yeah.
yeah, sure, it was greed, and it was selfishness, and working with animals is a selfless act. It's a selfless act. Animals can't do anything to benefit us if we get, through the passion, through seeing the joy, or even experiencing the joy of working with them. That is the only thing an animal can do. They can't give you money, they can't, they can't hold you when you're feeling sad. An animal can do nothing for you. So everything you do is selfless. If that's not at the forefront of your mind, then you've already lost it, and Joe got to a point, I think everyone involved, got to a point where it wasn't about the animals anymore. And then, I've mentioned before, I've watched the documentary and I've listened to these men that I've worked with, on a day-to-day basis talk about each other as if they don't even like each other.
Yeah.
And I've also seen men sit down at one table and eat pizza together, So I was watching it as a viewer as well in that sense, because all of that happened. I didn't care. I didn't care that it was happening, and I think so. It's greed, it's selfishness, and it's just that they lost sight of why we all got in this industry in the first place. Maybe they didn't get into this industry for the same reason I did. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask you a little more about Jeff in a second, but you kind of answered some of the questions. But one thing, though, people have been really big on, if I don't want to lose it here. Let me see it real quick. Oh, here it is. Was there anything Joe could have done to avoid his destiny that he's facing or his issue? I kind of asked that earlier, but do you think somebody else would have come in? Okay, let me rephrase that. So I asked you, without Jeff showing up, if Joe would still be in the same place, and you gave a great answer. So, is there anything else Joe could have done to avoid this, I guess? People are kind of just wanting Joe out of there. They want more of Joe. So, I mean,
I understand that. In my honest opinion, it would have been just focusing on the animals. For almost 10 years, I consumed myself. I drowned myself in just interacting with these animals. Every second of every day. And I didn't get into any trouble because you focus on the animals, and that's where it stays, right there.
So that's how you avoided a lot of the trouble then. Yeah, you did the right thing there. Okay.
Educating the public, if that's what you have to talk about for the day, then educate the public on why we do everything that we do for these animals. Because I know everyone looks at us like, you guys are crazy. Yeah. You have a 400 tiger in your living room. What are you doing? Man, I love it. I love every second of it.
So. Well, that reminds me though, like, of course we all get to experience cats and, same kind of animal, but what are the main differences, real quick, if you don't mind, that you saw between tigers and the cats we deal with?
Right. Yeah. No, there's not much characteristically, but aside from obviously the size difference, the power, the strength, and then as far as the mind of a tiger compared to the mind of a house cat, is the same and different for the same reason. Tigers are wild by nature. House cats are domesticated by nature.
Yeah.
Even a feral cat on the street will still eat out of a food bowl if you put it out there. So tigers never lose that wild instinct. Even if they're born in captivity, even if we raise them with bottles and it's not their mom feeding them, it's us feeding them. It's not them frolicking in a jungle. It's them sitting around humans, interacting with humans. they never lose that wild instinct. It's embedded in them, and I think that is the biggest and most important difference, obviously.
Definitely. Yeah, because it seemed like they were so reserved when they were around you guys. I know that you had the incidents. A lot of people asked about your arm, and they just wanted to know if there's any. I just had it pulled up. I'm really bad at interviews. I try. They wanted specifically to know, going back to work, not doing that job, how have you adjusted? And you kind of hit that. And any fears, anything kind of lasting from the injury, or have you kind of gotten past it?
Yeah, no, there was never fear. I was fully aware of the dangers that I encountered every day in the career choice that I made. And I loved it. I lived for it, honestly. Um, I think I had a really rough point there immediately after amputation, because at that point, I'm learning to live life one-handed.
Yeah.
Um, Simple things like tying my shoes, putting on a t-shirt, that got to me, because as an adult, you're not programmed to learn things again.
Yeah.
You're programmed to already have all these things established. So that was an interesting one for me. I actually stepped away from the zoo at that time just to kind of focus on myself, find myself, and be able to, conquer this life one-handed. And then I returned full-fledged.
Mhm.
And I'm proud, of every step that I've made. Right now, as I sit here in front of you, the only thing that I have not been able to do by myself is clap. So
Yeah.
proud of that.
That's excellent. Yeah, I was in the military also, and I've met a lot of my buddies have, an amputated limb, or
Right.
they can't use a leg, and they tried to work with it, and you seem to be doing great, so that's awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
I get asked more when I started to tell people we were going to talk about the friend group from back in the early days there. Anything you can add about all those original guys that were hanging around before we move on? Any other thing that pops out you could tell people that didn't get on the show?
I think my biggest, thing about the show and what they did and didn't show is the interactions with the animals by these employees, by these people who dedicated their lives all day, for however long that they did, whether it was a month, there's a heavy turnaround. So whether it was a month or 3 to 4 years, the dedication when passion was involved is everything. And these were not just clock in, clock out, go home, forget about it. This job was their life. It was a lifestyle, you
Yeah.
know? And I wish that that was kind of portrayed a little bit more. It would have made more sense to people. They say that this is, or it was thrown out there that it's a culty environment,
Mm.
have no choice but to be there. And that is I mean, so far from the truth. Everyone that was there for the long run, or even endured or sacrificed while they were there, did it because that's what they wanted to do, because of what they were able to do at that park. I've seen more smiles and more life changing just moments. I've experienced this with other people right there on that park than I have in my entire life. And I've been through some things. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I that's the same exact thing that my girlfriend said. She watched a different documentary about Joe, and it did show a lot more of the personal interaction from everybody back then, and she said the same thing. So that's cool to know that, because they all seem like great people.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was this idea of petting, and in the documentary, it's presented from Carole, and a lot of people see it as the petting does. Not everybody, but some people with cubs, it motivates them to care about the money. And we wanted to get your opinion on petting and whether you think it negatively affects the zoos, and whether it's exploited, and maybe if you've seen any experience, or what your thoughts were.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of different factors, that play into that, and everyone's going to have a different opinion on it. Uh, as of right now, there is more tigers in captivity in the United States than there is in the wild in the world. Um, so that alone, that statistic alone, will fuel a lot of fires. Why are we continuing to breed, and just adding to that captive, population? And then furthermore, why are we using these cubs, who can't choose for themselves, and using them as tools in these playtimes or in these cub petting events and whatnot. And I cannot speak for any other park, but for the one that I work directly with, um, every single one of our cubs were loved, were happy. They were never forced to do anything, and in turn, we get to educate the public, not just by our words, but with their experience, with them being able to put their hands on this beautiful, majestic animal. Every single thing that I wanted to do my whole life, they're able to do that right in front of my eyes. And yes, obviously, there's a fee attached to that. That is how the zoo survives, you know. And again, once that kind of was highlighted in my head that that's not where all the money is going, then I didn't want any part of it. As far as I know, every single day I went into work and I was able to share the joy and the love and just this amazing experience with the general public, who in turn now is more aware, more educated, and more apt to support it, even if it's not financially, just to support the fact that these animals exist, and hopefully down the line they still exist for people to put their hands on, to be able to interact with and really relate to in that way as well.
Yeah, I feel that way too, and it's horrible that they're going extinct. But it's not the most popular opinion, but I think it's good that we have a lot of tigers that are going to be alive if they completely die off, because it would be horrible to lose them.
Right.
Well, what about Carole Baskin's specific feelings on petting? She's really wants to go into the government. She wants to get censorship banned. I mean, it doesn't seem like she wants regulation. It seems like she wants it just censored out. What do you think there?
Yeah, she's definitely at the forefront of any act that's going through legislation right now that's banning interaction or breeding. So yeah, and that's her fight. That's what she strongly believes in, is that these animals have to be here. They have to have a place to go, and it cannot be the wild. So I completely understand that. We're actually on the same page in that sense. But again, and now it comes down to, you have to do what you have to do in order to survive, in order to fuel your sanctuary or your zoo or whatever people are calling it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Joe's way, and there's lots of other people around the United States that do that as well. So at the end, I think it's just going to be a pissing match. It's going to be just a matter of who wins at the end of this. Either way, I think that just the amount of advocacy for the animals is a good thing. Again, I'm not a part of it professionally anymore, so it wouldn't directly affect me, except for the fact that I know there are multiple people out there, a huge community of people now that are a part of this, that are part of this issue, and that's amazing. So
yeah, the documentary did so much with everybody being quarantined, it's really got people loving tigers again. The pictures and memes is going crazy.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. No matter what side it benefits, I think at the end of it, that would be the best way to actually benefit the animals, is for all eyes right now to be focused on what's best in their interest. And that's cool to me, man, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that Joe, in the very beginning, there's clips that surfaced of him doing interviews, and he's talking about literally being against petting, but not really. I mean, he's making some statements about sounded more like Carole, and he wanted to be famous so much, but it seems like the documentary took the way Joe was in the very beginning and went full circle. Even though he had to sacrifice, he kind of got caged himself. At least right now, it seems like because of him now and how big he was, that he got what he sought out to get. Does that make sense, or do you agree? Or
it does. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Whether he was expecting it or whether he even knew that that's what he was looking for, Joe definitely got every answer he needed right here, right now. Do people care about tigers or big cats in general? Yes. Uh, does it matter, what I say or do in response or in correlation to this industry? Yes. People are listening. They're willing to listen. Um, I mean, they had to survive Joe's story, but like you said, it to me, I feel like it did go full circle, um, and I'm glad of that because my biggest thing was he lost sight, and I'm glad he kind of found that clarity again, because it all
Yeah.
started with a passion, and I'm glad even though it's not in the best environment right now, Joe has found his passion again, and that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a good ending, even though a lot of people will say there's no good ending here. It's like, no, there was a good ending if you actually look at it. That's how I feel at least. So
Yeah, but it wasn't a good journey, but it
yeah,
was it
that's
was an
life.
entertaining journey. Yeah, and really that's all that matters. And like I said at the end of the documentary, I said that nobody won in that case, and I still stand by that. That entire experience for me, what I was a part of, I didn't see any progression whatsoever, but I do now, and that is the coolest thing that could have came from this. So.
Oh, it is. It really is. Okay, so I've got just a few like kind of like ending questions for the notes I have, and then I was going to see if there were any questions that came in from the audience, but I already asked you that about Jeff, and I got so many questions about Jeff. Let me just distill it all down, just give me your little sum up thing on people are even scared of the animals being around Jeff Lowe, and I've heard that a lot. And the last question was, would you still be at the zoo? Would you still be at the zoo if Jeff had never showed up? I guess it's a little different formation of the question I asked earlier, but could you still be there if none of that would have happened? Do you think you'd still be there?
Um, I guess it just depends on whether or not I felt like I could still be progressive with these animals, if I could still somewhat do good by them. Yeah, it honestly depends on that, and that kind of shows how how I feel about whether Jeff is the actual person who set all this off. It's definitely a domino effect. Um, don't get me wrong, he's never done me wrong in any way, shape, or form. I mean, he's always been very cordial and formal with me. Um, but Jeff, came there for a reason.
Yeah.
I think that whatever that reason was, I'm glad I wasn't a part of it, or I'm glad I'm not a part of it now.
That tells us a lot, though.
Yeah,
You're
I've never,
I could tell you're really nice, and you don't want to say bad things about people, but I'm
I
like
mean,
that too, so
Jeff,
I get the
Jeff
feel.
has his own lifestyle. Jeff does and says a lot of things I don't agree with. But we
Yeah.
have never had an issue, Jeff and I.
Mhm.
Lauren and I, his wife, we have never had an issue. Um, things were said about us, and things obviously were said without us knowing. Um, but as far as I'm concerned, they are living their life the way that they want to, and I'm not the one to judge that. I have never
Definitely.
either of them hurt or injure an animal, never. So, as far as the safety of the animals, it would just be a matter of what direction Jeff wants to take. If his direction is just, hey, I'm just going to take the skeletons of this zoo and make what I can of it, good on him, and I wish him the best in his future. But
Hmm.
I really don't know. I don't talk to Jeff. I don't talk to any of them. So
Yeah, definitely. I'll ask this question last. So, everybody asked about John. I'm going to say his last name wrong. Can you say it for me, Rennick or Rinky, or I don't want to say it wrong, or
yeah, it is John Rinke.
Rinky? I said it. I can't believe I got it.
Yep, got
Uh,
it.
so many people. I know I said that a minute ago too. It's just the questions poured in about him. I want to try to get a hold of him and get him on here because people
Yeah,
love that guy.
hey, he is a funny man. He's a good guy. He really is.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can get in contact with him. Well, that's just about everything that we had there, and man, it's such a wild ride. Now people have talked about Netflix making another episode and all this other stuff, and this getting bigger and everything else, but um, I guess we'll just go to the end questions. Anything else on that you're thinking of? Anything else you want to tell the audience or anything before we end out? Or
Yeah, no, I think I pretty much expressed it. I am just very appreciative, honestly, of all the support and all the outreach that I've been getting. and it's wonderful to see it play out the way that it's playing out, as far as now there's so much more people involved in this fight, and that's honestly epic to me. So,
do you have like a Twitter or Instagram or anything that you share yourself? If not, it's okay, but people do want to follow you if you do.
Right, I have an Instagram, Facebook, and a Twitter. They're all under my name. And I've had them for a while, and it's a lot of boring stuff now. But I mean, I'm always down for a conversation. I love being able to speak for myself, so I love it when people are able to reach out to me and I'm able to respond. So
awesome. Okay, so we got a couple super chats that came in. August said, "And away we go. Good luck." That was at the beginning. We've got Leroy. He wants to know if my assistant watches. My assistant is obsessed with the Tiger King. Yes, everybody here is. Leroy also says, "Thank you, Saff." And
guarantee.
August says, "Thank you and stay well." So everybody's just wishing you well, really, in the chat. So
I honestly do. I feel very, it's a world full of strangers. I feel very attached and relatable, at this moment, and I want to be able to kind of fulfill my end of that. So I appreciate it. I really do.
Excellent. We got one more. Learning with Suj says, "Glad you were able to get Saff on the show. I enjoyed the interview." Thanks, Suj, man. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah.
Saff, thank you for coming. I always say this to people who come and have a great interview. Anything that happens out there, if you say to yourself, I want to go talk about it somewhere, I will have you on any time. I mean, anything you want to talk about, just let me know. Just get a hold of me. I'll bring you on for anything. You're awesome.
It was fun, and I would love for that to happen. So we'll keep in touch for sure.
All right, Saff. Thank you very much. It was great. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Bud. All right.
Bye. All right, y'all. That was Saff from the Tiger King. I'm sorry, I was a little starstruck, I have to admit. Saff was one of my favorite people on the show. Celsius, Saff, you're my favorite. Great interview, Uni. Thank you, Celicia. I said your name wrong at first. I'm sorry. But no, thank you. Let's just let me talk about how I feel real quick. Tell you what else we've got coming up, because we might have another interview with one of the members of the Tiger King. And I'm trying to get Rinky. I'm saying it right this time. I thought they were mispronouncing it on the show because I heard somebody say it differently. Rinky, I want to get him on. I don't know if I will, but let's talk about that, and we'll get out of here. We'll go to the chat a little bit, and we'll get out of here. Well, all right, y'all. Look, I know I haven't been live a lot on Unirock too. That will change coming up. I've just been trying to put a lot of work into the live shows that I'm going to do over here and the videos that I'm going to upload. And I just think this was such a great interview for me. I'm selfish now. I got to fanboy out a little bit because I love the Tiger King. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. Because look, I was on Netflix when it first launched, and it kept popping up, and I'm like, I'm not watching the Tiger King. I don't want to watch another Netflix, because I just had gotten inundated with Netflix or something. But man, once you watch the first 20 minutes of that show, you're hooked. It's got everything. So if you haven't watched it, please take a look at it. You will enjoy it, especially while you're locked up right now, or quarantined right now, or whatever. Let me see what you guys have to add in really quick, and then we're gonna jump out of here, because I've got a few things to do on my on our ROCKaLOT channel. We're gonna be doing some stuff over there tonight. If you want to come hang out, no problem if you guys are busy, because we just chill over there. BM Furball, great interview. Props. BM, thank you, my dude. I'm trying to get you back in my Discord server. I want to get you back in, so come hang. Come hang, my dude. Thank you, though. Appreciate you. UniRach just shared Saff's Twitter account, and with the @ if you want to add Saff, tweet at Saff, support Saff, please do. Please, please, please do. Brittany Miller says this was so great. Well, thank you, Brittany. I know it's taken a lot of time, but we're trying to do a lot more, ordered shows, and we're going to try to get back to doing some of our old live shows, but I want to get some interviews. I want to get some other stuff done on the channel too. And we have another interview, I hope, next week. So we're waiting on confirmation. Tiger King related. I know you're going to be like, Tiger King? Are you a Tiger King channel now, Uni? No, but I am obsessed with the Tiger King and I love it. I love Joe. Man, would I love to talk to Joe Exotic. I wish he wasn't locked up. It's sad. It's sad. But the best part about the interview for me was that Saff agreed with me because I don't know. Maybe it was in the Netflix documentary at the very end, at the last episode, I think. But also there's some interviews out on the internet. Maybe I'll put together a video. There's these interviews of Joe Exotic where it's in the very beginning when he's not famous or anything. And he's talking about the Cubs and the petting, saying that it's bad, right? And we all make mistakes in life. We all can relate with that thing and money and things like that, right? To see it all go full circle. Because even though like Joe being locked up is even more kind of like fate craziness when it comes to this story. He had these Cubs locked up and people were against it and Joe was against it in the beginning. And through this crazy journey that you watch on the Tiger King, you see Joe make a lot of bad decisions and lose sight of the things that matter, and in the very end get locked up like those Cubs and those Tigers were. But in a way, he got so much attention on the issue, even though there's a lot of attention for the memes or a lot of attention for the craziness. He brought a lot of attention to the issue that literally would have never happened without him being locked up, without the murder for hire plot and Carole Baskins and the insanity of the whole thing. And it's like fate. It's just like destiny, right? You may get what you want, but you might not like the results sometime, right? I don't know. I think the old Joe Exotic, the one that fell in love with those animals, if you would have asked him, I don't know, but if you would have asked him 20 years ago and said to him, like, would you sacrifice it all if you could help the Tigers on a massive level? I think he would have said yes. So it's crazy, right? It's one of those stories that they did a great job. The documentary crew did such a good job. And I read about it. I guess what happened was they went in to do a documentary, and as time went on, they noticed that all these different stories were evolving, and it went off, after all these years, it turned into what we have now. So, wow, is it just, you have to watch it if you haven't seen it. Guys, thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. We'll be over here live more often. I just want to make sure I bring you, well-prepared stuff. So keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for me. Thank you. I'll be back. Unirock out. Peace.